talked about, these evolutions in the market, these tech trends, how does this all tie into the conversation of no-code process automation? Well, let's get some shared definitions first. So what is a no-code platform? It is a tool that makes it possible for citizen developers to create apps and workflows through a visual drag and drop environment. And if you're unfamiliar with the term citizen developers, it just means business users who do not have technical or coding skills. There's every major software developer right now is moving towards this model, guys. And that's because it has consistency and uniformity, and it is freeing up clients to not have to rely on developers to automate. Microsoft and Google are developing their own low-code and no-code tools right now, and every major vendor is looking at doing this. 2020, with not only a shortage of developers, but all workers in general, really saw the push for these types of systems to skyrocket. Okay, so no code we defined, and process automation. Process automation is when you use technology to automate complex business processes and create these digitally enabled workflows. And there's a couple of benefits that come out of that. You're decreasing errors because you're building repeatable processes that your internal teams are following. You're increasing the speed of delivery. There's a uniform process. It's faster, it's more efficient, it's less manual, and your teams are able to output new features, new apps, new experiences on digital faster. You're cutting down the costs, which we talked about earlier, because you're not relying so heavily on fintech, you're not relying so heavily on a huge DevOps team, and the automation is removing the manual roadblocks, and you're simplifying processes overall. One thing that doesn't mention here is that it also standardizes processes, and that can help with building an overall more consistent customer experience across the digital environment. So there are a lot of benefits to no-code process automation. I will just hit on what I think are the four biggest and strongest arguments for this. First of all, the ability to democratize innovation. Almost 80% of banking CEOs in a PwC survey saw digital skill shortfalls as a key challenge to their digital transformation. When you democratize that innovation, when you make that innovation available to more users within your organization, you fill that gap. Citizen developers are likely to outnumber IT professionals 4 times by next year. And those regular employees are the ones that are going to be given closer control of these programs. And they're going to be the ones adding functionality that supports corporate change or building new components to support requirements of an application. Now, I would like to note, this is not a free-for-all, and it's not an elimination of the role of IT and DevOps. This is all happening under close supervision of IT and DevOps. Citizen developers are prototyping and testing all of this in what's called sandbox environments before they're just throwing it out to the masses, first of all. And second of all, IT and DevOps teams are now, instead of having to spend hours and hours and hours trying to code and test, they are just overseeing and aiding these citizen developers in the build out of these applications and workflows based on, the best practices of the organization, based on data governance and all the knowledge that DevOps and IT can bring to the table in terms of how this should be done in a best practices way. So it's not eliminating the need for them. It's just evolving their role in the conversation. Then you've got improved banking services. So now you're able to build these no-code applications and enable digital accounts and digital loans with non-technical users in a couple of days. You're getting things to market faster, you're innovating sooner, and that's improving the experience for customers, and it's speeding up the rate at which these banking services are changed and updated. Less expensive innovation. So by deploying digital solutions through a no-code platform, IT is able to have that data governance overseeing and oversee the compliance, but they're still empowering the business people to develop the systems that they want. And there's a cost savings that carries over there to the operational costs as well. So your digital transformation is being achieved much quicker. It's removing the manual and paper-based processes that are inefficient. And now not only is IT kind of overseeing this bigger picture, but they're also able to focus on other projects that maybe they weren't having the time to get to before because of the time-consuming nature of the coding that they were doing in the past. So what would take a team of 20 high-skilled developers a month to accomplish can now be achieved with 2 developers using the right no-code tool. So not only are you enabling your citizen developers, but you're really empowering your IT team to do things quicker as well, and with less reliance on fintech and less pressure on those internal IT teams. And then finally, here's that word agile again, enabling agile development. So according to Gartner, by 2024, low-code and no-code app platforms are going to be responsible for 65% of all application development activity. And that's going to enable all these existing teams to speed up application development and move away from these complicated legacy platforms that are not allowing them to have those, powerful API connections that help them digitize sooner. And so we're accelerating our agility and scalability that way. So what are some real-world applications of these low and no-code process automations? Well, let's take a look at a couple of quick examples, and then I will soon turn over the floor to Megan here to show us what this might look like in the real world. So the Cooperative Bank, they're a retail and commercial bank out of the UK. They wanted to improve the speed and accuracy of customer experience queries. And so they looked at all their processes and they chose 10 that they thought required a lot of manual intervention and decided to automate those. Some of those were things like direct debit cancellation, account closures, foreign payments, and audit reports. They were able to automate all 10 of those within 12 months. And here were their results. Now, instead of it taking 6 to 7 hours to manually do an audit, it takes 1 minute with the automation they built. The ROI on it basically paid for itself. Each individual project paid for itself in less than 3 months. And again, the processes were built by business users with no code. So it really reduced the overall IT costs. They're not outsourcing to fintech at this point or building a huge IT team. RBC Wealth Management, they're out of Canada and the US. They wanted to open new accounts faster, and they had a huge backlog of IT projects that they wanted to cut down on. So one of the biggest things that they did was they digitized the opening of new accounts. So they took 24 minutes instead of several weeks of manual processes. And apparently 100+ pages of paperwork. I don't know in what world any human should be doing that, but that sounds terrible. So bless them for doing that, because that would not be a job that I would like to have personally. One of the other things I really liked that they did was they consolidated their information for their staff. So essentially, when somebody would have a client meeting, they would want to, read up on the client first, get all the info on their data, but they would have to be jumping around to all these different systems. So what wealth management did was they took 26 different systems and pulled in all of the pertinent data to a single screen so that their staff could reference that before a client meeting instead of jumping around, losing their minds. And then two other quick examples. There was a major US banking firm. They wanted to automate processes for loan applications, and they were able to cut down the decision-making process from 30 hours to 30 minutes. And that also helped them with their reporting and analytics visibility as well. An international accounting firm used no code to set up quality assurance systems that were designating pending tasks automatically to their team. So basically, it just helped employees say, okay, let me prioritize which issues should be handled first. And it informed those decisions. So what they did was they implemented workflows for one organization first. And then when they saw the success there, they implemented it worldwide, and now it's connected to a central database across all their applications.